Welcome back to my channel Celebuzz. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. We had to sell Graceland. When I looked at him, I simply said, "That will never happen." For nearly 50 years, Graceland remained frozen in time, a tribute to Elvis Presley, the undisputed king of rock and roll. Millions of fans walked through its halls, admired his glittering rhinestone jumpsuits, and left flowers at his grave. But high above them, behind a locked door, one part of the mansion stayed untouched, sealed like a time capsule no one dared open. Now in 2025, that attic door was finally unlocked. What was found inside shook even the most experienced archivists. Among the boxes filled with memorabilia, the discovery was chilling. Not just forgotten recordings or old letters, but something deeply personal and profoundly human. The real question isn't just what was hidden in that attic, but who really died the day the music stopped. On August 16, 1977, Elvis Presley was found unconscious in his private bathroom at Graceland, the sanctuary he once called home. He was rushed to the hospital, but hours later the impossible was confirmed. The king of rock and roll was gone at only 42 years old. Doctors first said cardiac arrhythmia, that his heart simply gave out. But fans and experts weren't convinced. Something felt off. An autopsy revealed clear signs of long-term prescription drug use. Then, shockingly, Dr. Jerry Francisco, not even part of the medical team, publicly claimed drugs played no role in Elvis's death. This statement stunned the medical community. Many thought it was to protect Elvis's legacy, but the truth wouldn't stay hidden. When the toxicology report was finally made public, it revealed a disturbing reality. Elvis's body was flooded with powerful drugs, dilated quaaludes, Percodan, Demerol, and codeine, all well beyond safe levels. Fans were horrified. How had it spiraled this far? Who enabled it? And how deep did the cover-up run? If drugs were involved, what was so terrifying about what lay hidden in the attic above his bedroom? The doctor who claimed he was saving Elvis. Then suddenly, I saw Margarita, and I was caught. Enter Dr. George Nicopolis, better known as Dr. Nick. Between 1975 and 1977, he prescribed Elvis over 8,000 doses of powerful medications, painkillers, sedatives, amphetamines, his name on everyone. When questioned, Dr. Nick didn't deny it. Instead, he said he was practicing harm reduction. According to him, Elvis was already deeply addicted, and the only way to keep him from dangerous street drugs was by legally controlling his supply. Incredibly, a jury believed him, clearing him of criminal responsibility in the king's death. But the story didn't end there. By 1980, he faced renewed scrutiny, not only for Elvis, but also for overprescribing to other celebrities like Jerry Lee Lewis. In 1995, the Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners finally revoked his medical license, permanently, citing a dangerous pattern of overprescription. Then came a twist. In 2020, author Sally A. Hodel released a bombshell book, Destined to Die Young, arguing Elvis's death wasn't caused by addiction, but by a combination of genetic heart problems and chronic health issues masked by his prescription. Drug use. According to her, Elvis wasn't destroying himself. He was fighting to survive, managing unbearable pain the only way he knew. If that's true, if his drug use was misunderstood for decades, what did the Presley family really know? And what exactly were they hiding in that attic for nearly 50 years? Something so personal, so revealing, it couldn't be shared with the world. Until now. A funeral fit for a king and a mansion that shut its doors. Surely you remember. The day after Elvis Presley's death, grief swept over Memphis like a tidal wave. Nearly 100,000 fans flooded Graceland's gates, desperate for a final glimpse of the king. His body, dressed in a white suit and blue shirt, lay in state for public viewing, an image forever burned into the hearts of those who saw it. On August 18, 1977, the funeral procession began. 17 gleaming white Cadillacs rolled through the city, a royal escort for rock and roll royalty. Among the mourners were legends like James Brown, Sammy Davis Jr., Caroline Kennedy, and of course Priscilla, Lisa Marie, and Vernon Presley. Elvis was laid to rest beside his beloved mother Gladys at Forest Hill Cemetery. But peace didn't last. Just 2 days later, a strange and chilling event shook the Presley family. A group tried to steal Elvis's coffin in a bungled ransom attempt. They failed and were only charged with trespassing, but the warning was clear. Elvis wasn't safe even in death. Fearing another attempt, Vernon Presley made a bold choice. Elvis and Gladys were quietly reburied at Graceland, inside the meditation garden Elvis himself had created. The estate became a fortress of memory and legacy. Doors locked, rooms sealed, and one space above all, the attic, was locked and never opened again. But why? Sure, a grave robbery called for tighter security. But why seal off the attic, far from the graves? What secret could possibly be hidden there, warranting decades of silence? The legend of Graceland only grew. In 1957, a 22-year-old Elvis Presley, already a rising star, bought a stately mansion on Memphis's outskirts for $2,500. Adjusted for today's dollars, nearly $1 million. The home already had a name, Graceland. Elvis didn't rename it. He embraced it. It became his sanctuary, his palace, his playground. The estate had sprawling barns, stables, pastures with horses, and even a mischievous resident, a pet chimpanzee named Scatter. Elvis dressed him in clothes and pulled pranks that made visitors wonder who was really in charge. In 1964, Elvis created one of the estate's most peaceful spots, the meditation garden, filled with flowers, fountains, and white columns. He'd spend hours there, reflecting on life and the pressures of being king. That garden would become his final resting place. But it wasn't just the garden that held mysteries. After Elvis's death in 1977, the entire second floor of Graceland, his private quarters, including the bathroom where he was found, was permanently sealed. When Graceland opened to the public in 1982, the upstairs remained off-limits. Not even presidents or world leaders were allowed in. Even more hidden than the second floor was what lay above it, the attic. No photos, no mentions, just silence. Why did even the Presley family act like the attic didn't exist? And after all these years, why is it opening now? A legal battle nearly erased everything. Yet here is an Elvis Presley you've never seen before. In 2024, shockwaves rippled through Elvis's fans and Memphis itself when a mysterious company called Nosen Investments and Private Lending LLC tried to auction off Graceland, claiming Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter and heir, had defaulted on a loan. It was unimaginable. How could the most iconic home in American music history, Graceland, be at risk of slipping out of the Presley family's hands and into private ownership? For decades, Graceland had stood as a sacred monument to Elvis Presley's life and legacy, a place where fans from all over the world pilgrimaged to pay homage to the king of rock and roll. But in 2025, the unthinkable nearly happened. Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter and now trustee of the Promenade Trust which legally owns Graceland, was faced with a chilling reality. A secret deal was in motion to sell Graceland to a private investor. Without hesitation, Riley sprung into action. She filed a lawsuit, calling the entire sale fraudulent. Her legal team alleged forged documents and a malicious scheme designed to exploit the Presley family's name and legacy for financial gain. The drama rapidly escalated into a tense courtroom battle. In a dramatic turn, just one day before the scheduled auction was to take place, a Tennessee judge stepped in with a decisive ruling that stopped the sale in its tracks. In his judgment, the court described Graceland not just as a property, but as a one-of-a-kind cultural asset that belonged to the American people, warning that its loss would cause irreparable harm to the nation's collective heritage. It was a rare moment of justice in a battle where no one from Riley's legal team or the opposing party, Nosen, even appeared in court. The ruling went unchallenged, securing Graceland's future as a public treasure, for now. But this whole ordeal raised an unsettling question. What if the judge hadn't intervened? What if a private buyer had taken control of Elvis's most sacred space? Would they have forced open the attic door and exposed secrets the Presley family had carefully shielded for decades? What might have been revealed if those walls could speak? And then, after nearly 50 years of silence, the attic was finally unlocked. In 2025, the archivists at Graceland quietly opened the sealed door to a space that had remained untouched since the day Elvis died in 1977. There was no grand announcement, no flashing cameras, just a hush as they stepped into a room that felt frozen in time. What they found was astonishing beyond words. The walls were lined with dusty boxes, each layered with decades of neglect, yet bursting with intimate pieces of Elvis's life. There were handwritten lyrics, some scribbled hastily on napkins, others carefully penned on torn notebook pages. Unreleased photographs showed moments never before seen by the public, snapshots of Elvis in private, unguarded and vulnerable. The archivists uncovered stacks of personal letters, some romantic and tender, others raw with heartbreak, and piles of unopened fan mail that had been waiting patiently for decades to be read. Among the treasures were early concert posters, rare stage outfits that glittered with sequins and rhinestones, and even childhood toys, reminders of the boy from Tupelo who would grow up to become the king. One item stood out, a worn leather jacket. Tucked inside was a small handwritten note that simply read, "Wear this when you need to disappear." The message was haunting and deeply personal, hinting at a man who may have longed to escape the blinding glare of fame and find peace in anonymity. But this discovery, as profound as it was, paled in comparison to what came next. The archivists uncovered something that went beyond mere artifacts or memorabilia. They found a box, modest and unassuming, labeled in fading ink, "Practice Sessions 1976. Inside were reel-to-reel tapes, untouched and unheard for nearly half a century. These were not commercial studio recordings, but raw, intimate rehearsals. Elvis was captured alone, experimenting with gospel hymns, soulful blues riffs, and even early synthesizer sounds that hinted at a musical direction he was just beginning to explore before his life was tragically cut short. One tape in particular stood apart, a stripped-down, deeply haunting version of Unchained Melody. No instruments, no backing vocals, just Elvis's voice, fragile and trembling, cracked with emotion. Recorded mere months before his death, the performance felt less like a song and more like a confession, a farewell wrapped in heartache and vulnerability. This was only the beginning. Other boxes contained stacks of unopened fan letters, still in their original envelopes, messages from soldiers stationed overseas, grieving families, young musicians inspired by Elvis, and lifelong fans. One letter stood out, a heartfelt plea from 1976 urging Elvis to cancel his grueling tour for the sake of his failing health. But did Elvis ever receive it? Or was it lost to the attic's shadows, along with countless other warnings no one chose to heed? The attic also revealed glimpses of the boy behind the legend. Among sequined costumes and vintage recording equipment were artifacts meant not for public display, but for personal reflection. A worn teddy bear from his childhood in Tupelo lay quietly alongside a Bible gifted by his mother Gladys, its pages worn and bookmarked with love. His high school yearbook was filled with handwritten messages, silly doodles, and signatures from classmates who knew him before fame swallowed his identity whole. These weren't just objects, they were intimate keepsakes, preserved not for fans, but for himself. Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis's daughter, once remarked, "It's comforting. I can come here any time and rummage through the boxes." That simple statement revealed the attic's true purpose. It wasn't just a storage room, it was sacred ground, a sanctuary where the Father, Son, and Man behind the icon still quietly lived in the faded paper and worn fabric. Through these artifacts, the myth of Elvis the superstar slowly faded into the background, replaced by a figure more fragile, more complicated, more profoundly human. Now that we've glimpsed the man behind the legend, can the world ever truly see Elvis the same way again? Did Elvis really leave the building? From the moment Elvis Presley was pronounced dead in 1977, disbelief spread like wildfire. Conspiracy theories exploded overnight. Some swore they saw him the very next day at Memphis International Airport under the alias John Burroughs, a name Elvis reportedly used during his life to avoid attention. Others claimed sightings at unlikely places, a.e. a Burger King in Kalamazoo, Michigan among them. Then came books like Orion, a novel eerily mirroring Elvis's life but ending with a faked death, sparking speculation that he went underground to escape the suffocating pressures of fame. Soon after, strange recordings surfaced, voices resembling Elvis's singing and speaking and hiding. Most were debunked as impersonators or outright hoaxes, but the belief persisted into the 2020s. One of the most viral theories claims Elvis is living quietly as preacher Bob Joyce, despite obvious differences in age and appearance. For many, the idea that Elvis faked his death offers comfort, a way to cope with the pain of losing a man who seemed too larger than life to simply vanish. Now, with the attic finally open, some fans find solace in the discovery of these personal artifacts, letters, and lost tapes, a final raw connection to the man they loved. But for others, these discoveries only deepen the mystery. Because if something so intimate was hidden away for nearly 5 decades, what else might still be waiting in the shadows, hidden somewhere in the unfinished story of Elvis Presley? Final thoughts. The man, the myth, the music. Elvis Presley wasn't just a musician. He was a cultural force. With more RIAA gold and platinum records than anyone else, over 500 million records sold worldwide, countless Hollywood films, and the undeniable crown of rock and roll, he bore the immense weight of fame and expectation. In 2018, Elvis was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, an honor befitting a man whose influence transcended generations. Yet here we are in 2025, still uncovering who he really was through dusty letters, forgotten tapes, a childhood teddy bear, and an attic holding more than mere belongings. It held the very soul of a man the world never stopped loving. What other secrets might still lie hidden in the shadows of Graceland? Were you surprised by what they found in Elvis Presley's attic? Which discovery sent chills down your spine? Share your thoughts below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the next video for more incredible stories from the world of music history.